Martin Partriquin is a columnist with iPolitics. We've reached him in Montreal. He's been covering the Quebec election campaign. Martin, good to see you again. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
François Legault didn't waste any time today making headlines on his first news conference since being elected Premier of Quebec, or Premier-elect, I guess. Says today he'll invoke the notwithstanding clause if he has to enforce a ban on face coverings for public servants. What's he proposing?
Well, basically, it was asked a question about it by the journalist, and he's making good on his promise to a couple things. There's sort of two-pronged thing. He talked a lot about reducing the number of immigrants coming to Quebec, and also instituting a ban on religious headgear and what have you. Actually, basically any sort of outsized religious accoutrement, if I can call it that, on the bodies of anybody with any sort of coercive power, and up to and including teachers. He doesn't want teachers to be wearing that kind of stuff in the classroom. This is sort of a rehash of the debate that we had in 2014 when it having to do with Parti Québécois Charter of Quebec Values, which they tried a similar kind of thing, and then it goes way back, 10 years to the time when we were talking about reasonable accommodations and the place and space sort of given over to religious minorities in Quebec. He ran on a campaign that didn't talk a whole lot about the issue of what people can and can't wear if they're drawing a government paycheck, but he's sort of going the same route that he has been talking about personally for 3-4 years.
Right, he's basically serving notice. I mean, the current law in Quebec dealing with face coverings is the subject of a constitutional challenge, and he's saying that's fine. Bring it on, because I'll use the notwithstanding clause. So he's prepared to go further.
He's prepared to go further, and it's interesting. It's actually not in the least bit surprising that he would do that. It seems like everybody's calling on the notwithstanding clause these days. Thank you, Doug Ford. But it's not surprising. The thing that's going to be interesting is that one of the CAQ's biggest sort of ideas or volleys is that they can go and ask the federal government for more powers. Up to and including immigration and on culture and what have you. This is going to be interesting. So François Legault is going to be going up in front of Justin Trudeau, asking him for more powers over immigration, for example, and the immigrants that come into Quebec, while arguably invoking the notwithstanding clause and taking the government to task at the same time. It's going to make for some interesting politics.
It is going to make. So I was going to ask you that. What role? Because a lot of Canadians don't know who François Legault is, or don't know him very well outside the province of Quebec. What role do you expect him to play on the national scene?
I mean, the thing that people have to realize that beyond this, the talk of immigration and like that, the CAQ is ultimately a party that is, has professed itself to be absolutely sick of the national question. Basically the back and forth between the Liberals and the PQ, either promoting sovereignty or using the threat of sovereignty to get back into office, as the Liberals did. They got tired of it. And so what Mr. Legault is proposing, Mr. Legault himself being a former Pickist, cabinet minister, he says, we don't want any more of this anymore. We are fine with where we are in Canada. And we're going to move on to bigger and better things. That is to say, and if you watched what he talked about yesterday, he actually didn't mention immigration at all. He talked about economy, healthcare,
education,
education. Exactly.
What should we expect? I mean, we talked a bit about his relationship with the Prime Minister, certainly on immigration. Is he going to be a problem for Justin Trudeau?
Certainly on the file of immigration. Part of the reason for exactly what we're talking about, he's being a bit bellicose as far as already talking about using the notwithstanding clause, but also because Quebec already controls the vast majority of its own economic immigration, and which is part of a deal that's been that they've had for decades. For Mr. Legault to come in and basically say we want more power over this so that you can reduce the number of immigrants coming in, so that he can reduce the number of immigrants coming into Quebec. With a prime minister who is, crazily, I don't want to say crazy, that's probably the wrong word, but who is very, very much in favor of immigration coming into Canada, it's going to create an obvious sore point.
Okay, let's back up a little bit and explain to people watching. How did we get here? How did François Legault and his party win so big last night?
He won in part for this. What I was talking about a little bit earlier. Mr. Legault, and it's almost in his own sort of biography that you can see why people were drawn to him. He was a guy who was very fervently sovereignist back in the day. In fact, in 2009, he wrote sort of like a speculative budget that talked about that sort of underscored the economic necessity of sovereignty. 3 years later, he founded this party because he quit the Parti Québécois and he founded this party, in large part because he really got sick of this national debate. And that sort of, you can almost call him a turncoat against the sovereigntist cause. The thing is that a lot of Quebec's voters, certainly people that are the baby boomers, the people that were very much in favor of sovereignty back in the day, have sort of reached the same conclusion as him. That is to say, it would be really nice if we did have sovereignty, but we tried twice. We tried once in 1980, we tried once in 1995. And to keep talking about it is to hurt Quebec further. It's a divisive debate. And I think that was one of the main reasons that the resonance behind him. The other thing, too, is that the Liberals, the Philippe Couillard Liberals, the Liberals themselves have been governing for all of 18 months, minus 18 months for all of 15 years.
Right.
So it's like a decade and a half they've been in power. And poll after poll after poll said upwards of 75%. I saw numbers as high as 78%. Talking about the need for change. And that's sort of what overcame the Liberals. I mean, to be perfectly honest, in comparison and in contrast to what Kathleen Wynne in Ontario, Quebec is actually doing very, very well. But that volonté, as they say in French, the desire for change overcame all of that.
Let's finish on this. The Parti Québécois reduced to non-party status in the results last night. That's a big blow. What do these results mean for the sovereignty movement in Quebec?
It's going to be what's the word? It was a severe reckoning. Not only did they lose official party status, they had their lowest, as the Liberals actually, they had their lowest performance in the history of the party. So we're going to see the Liberals and the PQ in a rebuilding effort from now on. But the difference between the Liberals and the PQ is the Liberals can rebuild. They're the party that is used to getting into power and they can sort of readapt and stuff like this. PQ is very much more ideological. They have to wrestle with the fact that their Article number 1 in their constitution, the vast majority of Quebecers want nothing to do with it anymore. They don't want anything to do with it. They don't want to talk about separation. They don't want to talk about the mechanics of sovereignty, going through another referendum, et cetera, et cetera. That's what they're going to have to deal with. It's not the writing has been on the wall for a long time, and now it's just been more or less spray painted there.
All right, big changes in Quebec and possibly some interesting changes in federal-provincial relations. Martin Partriquin, thanks for your time tonight. Appreciate it.
Thanks a lot.